Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Roberts, Traffic at Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Monday, August 21st. Clearly some big movers, as you could tell by how this screen is lit up over here to your left. And we will go through some of that as well as the price action in the before I do that, please read the full risk disclaimer right there. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube page if this is a video that helps you, that you find useful. So let's get into the themes of the day. Clearly, the semis, higher momentum names, they were strong, but overall breadth was not. So before we kind of get into that nitty gritty, I want to go over the indices with you. As always in the beginning, so let's start from, this is how I basically start our weekend videos for members, right? We look at the weekly chart first. And one of the things that we've talked about is that, for now we've been pulling back, but we still have plenty of support. We could look at the SPY too as well. Support is further down. So, I mean, this is still a pullback in an uptrend. So far, right, this is the first day. So other than that, we're not really going to rely too much on the weekly chart because it's just the beginning of the week and there's going to be a lot more price action that goes along. On the daily chart, we'll look at SPY instead of instead of S&P futures. Price is making a nice charge higher here. Remember from our video on Friday and recap on Friday, we had a nice reversal. We also noted that, of course, Friday was options expiration, and sometimes you can get a change. So there's a lot of things that were lining up. The market was getting oversold. When you look at things like the NIMO and the NAMO, which I'm not going to discuss too much here, but that's the McClellan oscillator, that provided an extreme reading as breadth kept on getting worse and worse and worse. That measures what goes on under the hood and how much, severely things are getting, decliners are weighing over advancers. So that got to a fairly oversold. I don't know if it was super extreme, but it did get to that oversold level. So that helped. We also looked at the equity put call ratio, which showed that had been rising or got over 1 last week. So that was another thing that just kind of lined up in terms of, hey, some type of a bounce was coming. So we got that. I think that you could kind of make the conclusion that depending on what you look at, especially things in the area of the Qs, that got a nice bounce. And now we'll have to see if we're going to get, besides the bounce, if we're going to get a short-term trend change. So one of the things that I would watch here when we look at the price action here is that the price stopped right at the 5-period moving average. Right, this is actually an exponential moving average. Why do I have the 5-period moving average on my charts? Because it really helps me define the trend when we're moving up or when we're moving down. Right, sometimes even things can get, they can get a little bit shaky on the upside. Right, and if we're staying above the 5-period moving average, there's nothing really to to worry about for that particular day. We look at other indicators to kind of help with that, but really right now we're trying to turn, but we did not do it today in terms of getting over the 5-period moving average. The moving averages also really kind of help me too, when we're trading either way below or way above the value area. And right now we're trading way below the value area. We also know that we did take out a VPOC on the daily chart last week, right? Sometimes these things aren't exact. Like sometimes you don't get the bounce right away. Same thing with this 1 hour one, right? We actually took 2 of those out last week. And there's another one down here. It's further down, but price needed to stabilize a little bit. So this was not the low point of the week. Sometimes it works that way. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes price can actually keep going through them, but they're definitely an area to watch when one of those version point of controls is taken out. Now, so what are we watching going forward here? Well, I would watch that 5-period moving average on the daily chart. And then what I would also watch, notice that we did make it into the value area for the week. Notice that this was a little bit of a shakeout here in the first couple hours of the day, right? And but we did come back and the very next hour we retook it, right? And now we've got what's called the bullish 80% rule. on here. So this is marking that we could have a move through the value area. Right now, that's an 80% chance, right? It's not a 100% chance, but that's how the value areas and 80% rules work. When you start the period below a value area or above and you break into it, there's an 80% chance that you go from one side to the other. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, that we could get some follow through. Right. So I'm gonna do point and counterpoint here in just a minute here. But Qs, also moving back to, we sliced through that version point of control to the downside. This did, made more progress today, right? This, Qs outperformed. They were up 1.6% today, right? And this did get above the 5-period moving average, right? So far we've got a reversal on our hands. What I would watch also to the downside is this 360.62 level. Same thing. If you look in the top right of your left of your screen, it's this bullish 80% rule, right? Also notice that that we stopped on this 1 hour, stopped on a dime on Friday on that 1 hour VPOC takeout. So for now, we've got the 80% rule. Yes, we're going to have to get through some more things, right? We've got overhead supply that price is going to have to get through, such as this, one of the nice things too on here is the 200-period moving average. Price has been below here for basically the better part of the month, right? And we've stayed below here. We checked back in here in the beginning of last week, and we're almost doing it again. So yes, we're going to need some follow through. Notice last week, right, when we started the week, it was a very similar type day. I'm going to talk about NVIDIA, but I think NVIDIA is very interesting when you look at the performance, right? This is not what I wanted to show, but look at the performance of NVIDIA on Mondays. Specifically, so this was Monday 2 weeks ago, was at 1.7%. Then it was down four days in a row. And then last week it was up 7% on Monday, right? Everybody, I guess all these analysts like to think about who they're going to upgrade over the weekend, and they raise the price targets, right? And the stock has had a huge reaction last Monday as well as this week. But notice there wasn't much thereafter. Now, it didn't do anything really that bad the rest of the week, right? In fact, it had a nice up week, but that was all that we got for the major averages last week was Monday, and that was it. So this will be an interesting area to watch. And even if we come in, if we do get some type of volatility, if there's some type of China news or interest rates continue to climb, as long as we come back in and we back check this 360.62 and we hold in here, right? That would be a positive. Notice that we kind of tried to do that for like an hour last week, and then it failed, and then we just continue to go lower. So we're going to have to either continue to kind of move up and to the right on the first attempt, right? Or, you can call it kind of the first attempt, or, let's see what happens if we do come in and back check this, right? And I think, as always, I think being open to all outcomes right now. So that's what I'm watching in terms of the short-term charts. Again, I'll repeat that level for you. 360.62 is going to need to be maintained. IWM didn't participate, and it's kind of funny that the way that this market is, right? We had such strong, nice bounce out of small caps on Friday. They were the index that outperformed. That was the one, if you watched my video from Friday, that was what I played in terms of a day trade. And I mentioned one day is not a trend. One day is not a trend. That's something that I've been saying quite a bit recently, but did not perform at all. Finished red on the day. So thankfully, I did not have any exposure to that trade today. And I looked to kind of what I did today was basically trade, what was moving today, right? And I tried a little bit of SMCI in the beginning of the day, and then I also traded some Meta in the middle of the day, and then I actually went back to SMCI. But I just basically went to where there was momentum in the day. One of the things that I thought was pretty interesting, and sometimes you can find these, right? Especially it's a little bit easier to find for the bigger cap names, but notice what happened today, right? And then I'm going to go back to the Qs in just a second, but and we could actually do this with the Qs, considering that Meta is one of those names. And this was the other thing that I wanted to point out, was that we did take out one of these 5-minute version point of controls. That level for the Qs is 364.41. So a pause like we saw in the beginning of the day often comes with these, right? The 5-minute, the smaller the time frame that we're on, the less significant divergent point of controls are. However, price still has to overcome them. But look at what we did here. So we started to kind of reverse around 10 o'clock and we went down to 11:40. One of the things that I noticed was Meta around that time frame, right? Here was the high for the day, right around 10:05. But notice it didn't go down, and it kind of just hung in here while the Qs were still trying to find a bottom, right? They were still going a little bit lower here. So that's why I played Meta today. I just noticed that it was holding up so much better, so that if we were going to turn and move higher, I thought that Meta could really outperform a bit. And it was just an easier trade, I think. So that's what I played for the day. This game is going to be interesting, right? Remember, going back to earnings, which seems far away at this point from when things like Meta and Google and Apple reported, but Meta had good earnings, right? They've given back all of that. Now, again, they're going to have to get through some overhead supply. They did reverse nice on this Virgin point of control. Again, if you're not familiar with the Virgin point of control, see my pinned tweet that has all the definitions for you. There's a doc on there that has all the definitions, but it's where a huge amount of volume has occurred previously and price has not come back to. So this value area, notice that the price did not pass through this point of control at all. Since it did not do that, it leaves one of these red lines, right? And price will remember that there was a huge amount of volume down here, and it seeks this out, right, when it's trading outside of a range. And you can have reversals, right? As I've illustrated already, you've seen some that weren't an exact reversal and some that were. So it's just an area to really pay attention to, right? So 287.39 is the bottom of value for Meta, and the 50-day moving average is something to watch. So I covered all the major indices. Let me go through and we'll talk about NVIDIA. Yes, so back-to-back Mondays, huge gains. It does break through this. Last week it stalled right at the bottom of value, then came back. The one thing that was good here was that it made a higher low, right, from where it did. And then, what can you say about today's price action? Pretty tremendous. Now, of course, on Wednesday is when this name is going to report earnings, right? And at this point, with a move like it saw today, I mean, they're going to have to put up good numbers for this thing to hang in there and possibly go higher. If they don't, right, I think there's a lot at risk here, not just for NVIDIA, but all the other companies that say that they're in the AI business, right, and the semiconductors in general, right. One name that comes to mind too, and I actually like this name, after the pullback, again, it's got more work to do, but this is SMCI. I would have really liked to see this VPOC being taken out, and maybe it still needs to be taken out down here at 224. We just don't know because we're trading here below the value area. Once we get into the value area, you don't have to worry about these Virgin point of controls, but at least the next thing this needs to do is get back above the 5-period moving average. But I do like this company. One of the reasons why I do is because it is a lot cheaper than some of its peers. The PE is about a 22, or estimated PE is a 14. Remember, like a year ago, this stock was trading, the PE was in the single digits. But the next thing to kind of talk about is what interest rates are doing, right? And the market kind of shook this off today. We did take out, speaking of Virgin point of controls, we did take one to the downside out in the 30-year bond future. Now, we're yet to see a reversal from here. I would like to see bonds rally tomorrow, but we'll see. But if not, I think that you have to be prepared for more volatility if the price doesn't stabilize at this Virgin point of control, because TLT does not have one, right? And TLT did go through here. We have not taken out the lows of last year in TLT, but we're pretty damn close. Right, and ZB, we did take it out. So that's what I'm thinking for tomorrow. If rates are higher again, it's going to be tough for equities. Not to say like they were able to do it today, but again, one day is not a trend. we'll have to see if these rates begin to stabilize. And again, right now it's on the long end of the curve, right? I've already talked about this in multiple videos, right? This is not so much the short end of the curve, which was driving things more so in the beginning of the year. The 2-year is at 5% right now, right? Some people, again, to me, it's kind of crazy that people are not looking at where all these interest rates are, and they're like, geez, well, and again, I mentioned this in Friday's video, but I see people saying, oh my God, what if the 10-year gets to 5%? Is that big of a deal? Because the 2-year's already there, right? The 2-year's already at 5%, but I do think it will create more volatility in the equity market. That's how that's been working. UUP did not do too much. Remember, we talked about this. Speaking of virgin point of control, right? This is digesting this, right? It has not turned down yet, and it's not above this yet. So I think that's also continues to be a must watch. Let me just go back to my spreadsheet here for other trends for the day. I did just highlight small caps because they didn't perform very well. We talked about, so kind of interesting. This always makes me think, right? The breadth was not good today, but the higher momentum names were, right? So a lot of traders, right? A lot of retail traders, they're happy that Nvidia goes up. Tesla had a nice day today, right? And a lot of the FANG stocks did well today. They probably don't like when there's a strong breadth day. That means that the industrials are going to do well, the financials, right? And most of the retail traders are not trading those names. So it's, sometimes it's funny what people ask for. They're like, oh yeah, we'll see if this, if this breadth gets stronger. But many of those names, they're not going to trade anyway. So, bad breath might be good for some retail traders, mostly day traders, I think. But regardless, you had an oversold bounce so far in Tesla. There's not much that we could really take away from the daily chart because price has gotten so beaten up here. So the level, and this is where the 1-hour chart comes into play again, right? Notice where your resistance is for the week. That's 238. You also have support down at 219.95. All right, guys, that's a couple names. I could highlight a couple other names for you too. Arista Networks, which I think is also a lot of people are noticing the strength in this one. Watch 183.45. It was up 2.2% today, so a nice day. Didn't close on the highs, but I would watch this 183.45. VRT, which gets a lot of attention too on the Twitter sphere, did take out this another virgin point of control taken out. Again, just a lot of, these things signal overhead supply. So that's why you're hearing me talk about them so much, or demand when they're below price. But let's see what this thing does right around 35.10. Right, that's also signals last week's highs, right? And over the daily chart looks pretty good here, right? That's a nice looking candle. Just has to continue. Just has to basically continue here. What else do I have written down here? I can't read what else I have. So one name I'm watching too is ELF. That name is above the 50-day moving average, right? So again, after this type of a move down, it probably needs to consolidate here a little bit. And I think that's what this is doing right now. But I think overall positive for this to come right down to the top of value and hold it, as well as the 50-day moving average. A couple things that I thought were also interesting, and I added a little bit of risk to my TTG trend portfolio today. Just some names that I think look pretty good. Clack, right? So I took out all my semi exposure about a week ago, give or take the day, because I took out some prior than last week, and then I took out the rest last week. But this is a name that doesn't get much attention. That's fine. I kind of like names that don't get too much attention that are in uptrends. Another one too that I think is interesting is ANET, which had earnings last week. Very quiet. Nobody really talking about or getting, I shouldn't say nobody, but not getting that much attention, right? Look at the move up here, right? And I think the weekly chart is going to be interesting here too, which it did break out of the value area to basically see if it can get above those previous highs. All right, that's just a couple other names that I'm watching. I'm gonna try to make this Monday video short and sweet. So guys, have a great rest of your day. A lot to watch for tomorrow. It should be an exciting week. So NVIDIA reports after the close on Wednesday, and then you have Jackson Hole Thursday and Friday. Have a great rest of your evening tonight, and I'll see you guys in the trading room bright and early on Tuesday morning.